Okay, in this lesson, we're going to just take the front section of the boiler and add some hardware elements that it's missing, try to wrap that part of the train model up. So if you look at the front of the blueprint right here, there's an array of these clamps and they have a bolt running through the center. We're going to make those, and there's a couple sets of hinges here. The next several videos will make all these pieces. There's also like a little semicircle of pipe. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to grab this blueprint and the front of the boiler door there, and we're going to hide unselected. And then I'm going to go to Shift and B, which is my back viewport, which is the front of the train. Okay, and now what we're going to do is go to Standard Primitives in the Create panel, and we're going to make a cylinder. And I'm going to do it right there with Auto Grid on. If it's not on, you check it on. I'm going to come right here. I'm just going to pull out a cylinder and give it some depth. I'm going to go to Perspective Viewport. I'm just going to pull that forward. There we go. And give it some more height. There we go. Okay, so once you have this in place, you might need to rotate a little because we did do it on surface. It's not always perfect, so to me that looks better. And with that, I'm going to convert this whole cylinder to an editable poly. I'm going to grab, with Control held, I'm going to grab the front door of the boiler. I'm going to Alt and Q to isolate. Okay, and now we're going to go back to this piece and zoom in. And what we want to do is grab some of the polygons that are on here. That looks pretty good. And we're going to just do an extrusion a couple times. Extrude. Let's right click that value and do it by hand. I think that's 1, 2, 3, and check. Okay. And then we'll do the same at the back. We used 5 polygons, so I'm going to do that one. Zoom in. 2, 3, 4, 5, and the same extrude process that we did. Check it off. Let's do it 2 times. Okay. There we go. And let's just add a turbo smooth to see what it looks like right now. You can see it's got a little funkiness on the top, but it's kind of the right shape already. So let's undo, well, turn off turbo smooth, and we'll take this polygon right here and we'll inset and right click that out, and let's do it by hand. Let's see. I'm going to do it right around that, and a second time. Okay, I'm going to delete that. No, you know what? We're not, because we're going to put a bolt over that anyway, and we don't need the extra polygons. Let's see how this looks. And that feels almost the way we want. The same thing is happening at the back. You can see some artifacting. So let's exit isolation and Alt and Q with just that piece selected. Let's go to Polygon, F4. We're going to inset this one twice as well. So let's do inset and check mark, plus sign for another, and then check mark to say OK. And now let's see what we have. That looks better. I'm going to tweak this mesh a little bit. Again, you can toggle on show ends end result toggle if you want. I'm going to just simply use the move tool. I'm just doing this by eye, whatever feels good. There we go. I'm going to do the same here, maybe just a little bit of a edit to it. Okay, let's exit isolation. Let's grab with Control held down, and we still have the first piece selected. Let's Control and select the other piece, and let's Alt and Q to isolate. F4, and I'm just going to push this down just a touch. It can intersect a little if it needs to. That looks good. And I think what I want to do now, I want to add a little push modifier. Sometimes when you model, things don't have enough like volume or mass. You can dial it up a little just like that. And this is going to read better. It's a little looser, you know, a little softer, but we can also collapse this. But that amount of volume makes it read a little better from a distance. It'll show up better. So what I'm going to do is collapse to the push. So I'm on push selected in the stack. I'm going to right click and collapse to. Turn off the turbo smooth. And then you can see down here we got a little bubbly. So at both ends, we'll just do a ring selection. Alt R, Control Shift and E, and maybe pull that closer to the top. Same at the bottom, Alt R, Control Shift E, and move that closer to the bottom. Let's leave it in the middle because it's going to average between those two. And now let's see how it looks. That looks better. What we're going to do next is we're going to grab a bolt. So let's exit isolation and see if we have any bolts that are in the neighborhood. Let's unhide all. There we go. Let's say no. Okay. F3. I'm going to select this. I'm also going to Control and select the front door of the boiler. And then I'm going to select one bolt, and then I'm going to Alt and Q to isolate everything again. And I'm going to grab this bolt. I'm going to just take the gizmo, which is centered on the door right now, and I'm going to grab it and shift this down as a copy. And now I'm going to effect pivot only on that object and center it to the object for the time being. Left viewport. I'm going to just move it out here a little bit so we see it. Kind of align it to where it looks like it's aligned with the piece we just created. And pull it over this way a little bit. There we go. I'm going to scale this down. And just take your time, align it to the object we just created. I like to push it back a little. That's not bad. Okay, so that's one clamp piece, one clamp that we're going to use. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to grab this. I'm going to go to Shift B for the back viewport. And I'm going to grab the door, make sure that the boiler door has its pivot aligned to the center, which it does. And I'm going to grab this one, this clamp, effect pivot only, center the object. Now I'm going to control and click on the door again. We did this earlier as well. We'll use the align tool and click on the pivot of the actual front of the boiler and say OK. And now the pivot for this clamp is aligned to the center of the pivot of the door. Okay, and P for perspective. Let's do this. Make sure your angle snaps are on and hold down Shift. And let's go, let's see, 30 degrees into 360 is 10, 12 times. So we need 11 instances of that clamp. There we go, it lines up good. And then we're going to do the same with the bolt. We may need to do the same process with the lining pivots. So control click on the front of the door after selecting the bolt, effect pivot only, and let's use the align tool, and OK. Okay, and now I'll grab that bolt, nut and bolt combination, and with the angle snap still working, I'm going to shift and drag until, cancel, uncheck effect pivot only. We're going to shift and drag that rotate, just like that, 11 instances, and there we go. So now we have that nice detail, that clampy nut and bolt section on the front of the train, and that's pretty much how they look. So let's save the file, and let's do this while we're here. Let's hide the door. Let's Control A to select all, and let's just call it with the tools rename objects. We're going to call it front. Sorry about that. Front underscore hardware. Yeah, and no dash. Numbered and rename. And now all those pieces have a name associated with them, so we can unhide everything. There we go. Let's unhide all. No. Let's hide the blueprint really quickly. Okay, so there you see we have a little bit more detail. So I'm going to pause the video. In the next video, we're going to make a set of hinges that works on this little furnace door that's on the front section. So I'm going to pause now, and we'll pick it up there.